Our guest on today's show is Martyn Sloman from Gold Dust Sales Trading.
The one biggest mistake, well, that's a really good question, I think is not learning from whatever that failure is in that moment. It's about taking each part of the process, so taking that initial conversation that you want to have, that initial lead, and just thinking about, okay, what's the best outcome that we can create here for the customer? What's the best outcome that I can create here for me? Where a lot of salespeople go wrong is that they don't identify their target customer profile. Another thing that salespeople can be really ineffective doing is actually understanding their own value proposition. So I don't believe that there's any such thing as a natural salesperson. I think that it's learnt. I think it used to be that if you were gregarious, if you were outgoing, if you could talk, then you would be perceived to be an effective salesperson, but the polar opposite is true now. The effective salesperson is someone who is almost more analytical and more challenging and wants to gain more information, wants to listen. So they don't talk as much, they steer the conversation, but ultimately they're a much more effective listener. Often people think, well, if I come up with a compelling reason, then that's great, the conversation can go from there, but they can quite quickly lose their way, and they may disengage from the person that they're talking to. So planning the questions is the key piece. It's not just about coming up with a compelling reason, it's what are the key questions that I'm going to ask. The effective salesperson will want to understand what it is that the message that the business that they're selling to is wanting to communicate. You know, what kind of customers are they looking to attract, and then how can they form a partnership with them to achieve that. Get yourself into that mindset where the starting part of your planning is what's going to be the best outcome for this prospect and for me. Then good things are going to happen more often. More of it is built around the challenges that they face, because people tend to respond more to avoiding more pain than they do the creation of more opportunities. But also, given that 60% of the time people will deviate to inaction as the action that they take, they'll stay with the status quo. We need to find out what the reasons are for them to stay as they are. I think that the subservient person will have better appeal. However, they still need to have confidence to ask those bolder questions. So the subservient person will put the prospect at ease, and will take the pressure out of the sales conversation. Whereas the dominant person, unfortunately, they fall into that archetypal perception that we've got of the typical salesperson, and so therefore, the barriers come up, and the prospect feels sold to. They know what's coming next. They can almost sense the techniques being rolled out. Yes. All right, I'm Martyn Sloman from Gold Dust Sales Training, and I'm called the Yes Man because I help people to get more agreement in their conversations, whether it be with customers or prospects. So the key takeaways that I recommend are: plan questions before you have those conversations, but don't be so rigid that you have to stick to all of those questions. Remember, it's not about us, it's about them, it's about the prospect. So always think, is the juice worth the squeeze? What's going to be the best outcome for your prospect or your customer from that conversation? And then what's going to be the best outcome for you? If you use that thought process before any interactions, it will mean that even if the previous interaction didn't go as well as you wanted it to, you're more likely to pick yourself up and start to deliver a fresh experience for that next person you're going to speak to without the residual negativity of the previous experience moving into that. And that will come across in your approach. So it's always think, is the juice worth the squeeze? Plan a few good questions, but don't be stuck to them. And to always look at it as a learning experience. So think about what you've taken from that previous call, what went well about it, and what you can use again, what you might do differently.